Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. We are back on the dev server and we are having a look at a new aircraft that is coming in for the British tech tree. This is the Fathead Harrier, or the Harrier T10, as you can see here. Now, this vehicle is coming in as a premium for the British. It's going to be at 11.3 in air and also 11.7 in ground, and it's pretty similar to the GR7 that you have over here, apart from it has a fat head. The vehicle itself, when it comes to the aviation tech tree, is going to be at rank 7. This means that it's going to be able to efficiently grind everything in the tech tree that is here. So generally, that's quite nice. The only real question is whether you're going to enjoy it while grinding through it. Now, this thing, from an air-to-air point of view, is actually kind of lacking at the 11.7 BR, if I'm honest with you. But from other areas, it is doing pretty well. From an air-to-air point of view, it's actually kind of equal to the Sea Harrier FRS-1 in terms of weaponry, with this thing getting access to the good old 4 AIM-9Ls. Whereas if you have a look at the T10 here, that's basically the same that it gets access to. The area where it changes is, of course, the other secondary armaments that we'll get into. So this vehicle, right now, I'm pretty sure is just kind of completely copied from one of the other Harriers, probably the GR7, because of the fact that if you actually have a look, it doesn't have the secondary pilot. If you don't know what the T10 is, basically it's a trainer Harrier, which could get access to all of the main armaments of the Harrier. So that's why they're bringing it in, and hopefully they can give it to kind of pilots, which would be cool. This vehicle here also gets CCIPs and CCRP for the bombs. It has a very good optic on it. It has a very nice RWR, which is one of those which is super useful, especially at this BR, and generally will give it at least a good way of defending itself. It uses the Rolls-Royce Pegasus Mark 105, which has a lot of thrust behind it. It still has the same problem as all the other Harriers, though. This thing does overheat if you run it basically 100% for too long, so you got to be a bit careful with managing it. And also, it's a huge heat source for some reason. It's I understand it's like a massive engine, and yeah, it's a huge heat source on top of that. You then also have the fuel. Which, generally the Harrier, at least in this game, is pretty fuel efficient, which is quite nice. So it makes it a little bit easier to deal with. Now, secondary weapons. Remember, this is a premium, so you'll be able just get all these modifications for free, so you don't have to worry about it at all. But the secondaries is where it gets kind of interesting. So this is kind of your like standard loadout. So you have the 4 AIM-9Ls, and then the 225mm Aidens. So if you're playing air-to-air, this is what you're going for. But I honestly don't think this is really that much of a great air-to-air machine. As I said, the FRS-1, which is a 10.7, actually has access to this kind of loadout. But also, if you have a look at it, it's 11.0 in air. So, this thing is still higher for some reason in air than it is this. It's very confusing. I suppose they think the flight model is something that would really change for this area. But then you also get access to some other weapons since you have so many different hardpoints. You have drag bombs with a thermal pod, you have dumb bombs, and then you get access to the Mark 13s. These are obviously the guided munitions that are around. And then you have the Paveway 3, so the massive bombs that are coming in. These ones specifically are the GBU-24s, so the kind of 2,400-pound bombs. You also have the GBU-12s, which are here as well, so more guided munitions. And then also Mavericks, because why not? So you have the IR Maverick, the AGM-65G. You also have the Laser Maverick, the AGM-65E. And then if you just want the kind of standard IR one, which has a heat warhead instead of the SAPHE, you get it too. These are the AGM-65Ds. So that's basically where this thing comes alive, if we're going to be honest. It also has access to more kind of Dragon Dumb Bombs and rockets as well, if you want to bring those along too. No incendiaries, but basically everything else. So the reason why this thing is so high BR, at least in ground, and probably air as well, is because of the Mavericks and also because of the guided bombs. You can go to very high altitude and annihilate stuff from above. The problem with this is, as I've said previously, this kind of sucks. You can see here, basically, the GR7 gets kind of the same setup. The major difference between this one is this one gets the BOL pods and also gets access to the AIM-9Ms, which are the IRCCM missiles. So that's the huge difference between these two. That's why the T10 itself is a lot lower BR compared to the GR7. The Harriers at high tier have really weird BRs and generally don't make them very user-friendly, which is why it's kind of always hard to say, hey, you should definitely play a Harrier, or you should definitely buy a Harrier. But this one, at least, in ground forces, if you're looking for something which can go along with other lineups, it's not really a terrible plan. This thing being at 11.7 in ground, the only issue is, though, is you don't really run 11.7, you run 12.0, and that's okay, I suppose. You can run 11.7 with it if you want to. You'll still get into the top tier matchmaking, but you already have the Royvalk, if you've ever purchased that, and then other options at 11.7 for ground do come in too. So you can at least bring along like the Sea Harrier FA2, which is right here. This one does have the AIM-120Bs, but then also a limited amount of secondary ordnance. You also have stuff like the Tornadoes if you want to bring along, even the GR1 or the F111C, which of course people aren't a huge fan of, but it does have the guided munitions. So what the T10 gives you is access to a platform where you can basically just bring Mavericks and also bring, other ordnance at the same time and kind of have a fun time with it. I generally feel like when we look at a vehicle like this, it just seems like a weird pick to make as a vehicle to be able to do all these things. But also in general, if people enjoy this type of vehicle, then why not, The countermeasures are located on the bottom, which at least for me is preferred. It does go up to 110 wet, but as I've said before, it's not a good idea to do on this thing. It does also have nozzle control, which I don't think I have set up on the dev server, so take that with a pinch of salt. No, there you go. I do have it set up. And then also, it does have the targeting pod, which is unfortunately blocked right now, and then the other targeting pod too, and then also the cockpit. So all of that is actually set up, which is really nice, and ready to go with the vehicle. It looks beautiful. You can even see the guy back there behind you, since this is the trainer version. And yeah, so hopefully people can enjoy this thing, because they do then have put a lot of time into the good old Harrier and what it looks like. This one is no exception to the rule. So yeah, if you want a CAS Harrier, which doesn't have access to as great ordnance, I think this is probably the one to go for. And then you can kind of learn how to use the good old Mavericks and have a bit of fun. So, as always, I hope you have a wonderful day. I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tulio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.